of what adaptive reuse is and the research that they found out and why we are doing adaptive reuse Lobby Day like in the first place. And then when I have Bob, when I put Bob and also Kevin Lasser was a staff person and a board member, Bob, gonna give us a kind of overview of what lobbying day looks like day to day and like the day off. And then when I give like Adora some time to kind of frame of why NCH is doing lobby day in the first place and also kind of the tips of how to reach out to people. So that's how the schedule gonna go. We're gonna follow along that way. But with that, I will go to Trisha, please go ahead. And if you want to share screen, you can share screen as well. But this is your time. You're gonna give us about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna have some Q&A. Thanks.
Sorry, I've been muted. Okay, I'm
All
unmuted now.
No
Thank you,
worries.
Francis, and sorry, everybody, and thank you for the time. And so my name is Tushar Kansal. I work on housing policy at the Pew Charitable Trust. We see homelessness policy as an integral part of housing policy, but we're looking at trying to make housing more affordable for everybody, and by doing so, reduce homelessness. And so I'm going to share a little bit about the research we've been doing, both in terms of kind of how building more housing can make housing more affordable for everyone and reduce homelessness. And then, specific to adaptive reuse, we did a series of studies across 10 cities about converting empty office buildings to co-living. Basically dorm style housing, and how that can create a lot of housing that is affordable to low income and extremely low income folks, and thereby really reduce the number of people who are becoming homeless. And so I'm going to share my screen here and jump in. Let's see. Okay. Oh, did this in the wrong order. Sorry. Okay, so share. All right. Okay, everybody seeing my screen?
Yes, you're good.
All right, great. So yeah, let's jump in. So just want to start by noting and kind of sharing that we are in a historic housing shortage across much of the country right now, and have been for the past 20 years. And one result of that is that when there is a shortage of apartments and homes for rent, rents rise really, really quickly. And so on this page, what you're seeing is that red line is how much vacant housing there is. And as you can see, at times like, the early part of this decade, when the percentage of vacant apartments across the country dropped, lower, around 4%, rents just really started shooting up. Now, this is across the country as a whole, but if you look at specific markets, especially some of our bigger cities, those metro areas like in California, in New York, in Texas, et cetera, this is just the status quo, right, at all times. And so that's why rents have been increasing so quickly. And homelessness is high where rents are high. And so you see the cities in blue where rents have been really high, where rents are increasing at a very fast clip for in kind of most cases. And
Trisha, could you give me a
Yep.
second? Sorry for interruption. Megan, you
Oh,
have
it's just
something?
that your slides are not advancing.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry for the interruption. Yep.
no, not at all. So are you still seeing the first initial blue side?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder why.
Yeah, we can see the change now.
There it went. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just do it in this format instead of full screen. Who knows why that is happening? But so yeah, I was showing here rents rise quickly when there are not enough apartments. Jump into this slide. these cities, San Francisco, New York, LA, Washington, D.C., some of our biggest, most expensive cities, also have really high homelessness rates. This tracks when rents are really high or when rents are increasing really fast. In contrast, these cities where rents are much lower, even if these are not kind of like as wealthy cities, people aren't earning as much. If there's enough homes, you'll have a lot lower homelessness. And so that leads us, to kind of the solution side of this. There are some cities that have kind of cracked the code here. Places like Minneapolis, Portland, Oregon, those big cities, and also New Rochelle, New York, a smaller city near New York City, Tysons, Virginia, and suburban Washington, D.C. These places added a lot of housing in a short period of time, over 5 or 6 years, and managed to keep rent increases really low. In some cases, like Minneapolis, rents were flat. And turning to Minneapolis here, you can see that as compared to the rest of the state of Minnesota, Minneapolis was actually growing more rapidly. There were more residents moving in, but they added more housing units. They added 12% to their housing stock. And as a result, they kept their rent flat over this 5-year time period. If you're adjusting for the increase in income, actually rents went down effectively, and homelessness dropped significantly. Minneapolis didn't have like some magical kind of like, really concerted, focused effort to reduce homelessness. They have good policies, but nothing earth shattering. But just by making more housing available and therefore making more housing more affordable, fewer people fell into homelessness. This is because, and you all know this intimately, most homelessness is not chronic homelessness. Most people who are experiencing homelessness do so for less than a year. And so if we can keep people from falling into homelessness, that means that they are much less likely to become homeless. And so, we had this kind of nice natural experiment that happened in the early part of this decade when interest rates were low and a lot of apartments got built in some of these cities, particularly in the Sun Belt. Really, a lot of apartments came online. And I want to be clear that some of this was affordable housing, but the vast majority of it was market rate housing. And most apartments that get built today are fancy new apartment buildings, like those kind of big, tall, quote unquote, luxury towers, right? But what we saw is that in these cities that built a lot of housing, added 10% of their housing stock, the rents fell the most for the older, most affordable types of apartments. Those are the apartments that you see in those green or teal bars. And so that's really interesting that even though the most housing that was added was the blue housing, the new and renovated or the fancier housing, the most expensive housing, rents fell the most for the most affordable types of housing. And the kind of logic there is that when high income folks see big rent increases and they don't want to pay or they can't pay that much, they will move into middle income buildings or middle income neighborhoods. Likewise, middle income folks, when they get priced out, they'll move into lower income buildings or low income neighborhoods. Low income folks have nowhere else to go, right? And so either they pay big rent increases, end up paying 40, 50, 60% of their income on rent, or they double up with friends or family, or in the worst case, scenario, they are living in a car, they're living on the street, they're in a shelter, right? And so this is why, and so when you build a lot of housing, you see the inverse of that. And that's why you see the biggest drops in rent, the biggest increase in affordability in those lower rent buildings. Now, moving into the adaptive reuse kind of space, what we saw is that over the past 60, 70 years or so, maybe a little less than that, but over the past 50 years, our cities, especially, but to a certain extent states, made it a lot harder for really extremely low income folks to afford to just live, right? We used to have a lot of rooming houses, boarding houses, SROs. These were not nice places to live, let me be clear, right? In a lot of cases, they were run down, they were unsafe, but people could have a roof over their heads, right? And so, you know, you look at this, these are all kind of income adjusted dollars. But at the poverty line, you know, somebody could afford an apartment that for like $390. And in 1924, you could rent an SRO for $230, which means you could rent an apartment. You would have a room to live in. But today, they basically no new SROs being built. A lot of them have been converted into hotels or, you know, apartments. And so, and our cost of housing has really shot up. So now it costs over $1,000, obviously unaffordable to a lot of low-income folks. So what we looked at is 10 cities. Can you recreate this housing type at a much, much higher quality? Give me a couple more minutes here. I will wrap up. And so these are much smaller than traditional studio apartments because they don't have a bathroom or a kitchen inside the apartment. But as you can see here, this is a nice room, right? This is basically dorm style living, but not just for college students. But you have a door that locks, you have your bed, a desk, a dresser, your own microwave, a half-size fridge in there. And like I said, we looked at 10 different cities. And basically what you do is you convert an empty office building all around the edge. You have these rooms, so everybody has a window and a lot of light. And then in the middle, you have bathrooms, kind of individual bathrooms that is not your own private bathroom, but when you go in, you lock the door behind you. So you're the only one using that bathroom. You have shared kitchens, you have living rooms, you have laundry. And so this is, you know, what that Denver floor plan would look like. Here's another example in Chicago. These can be scaled up or down, you know, depending on the size of the building. You could convert just one floor or, you know, the whole building, depending on how you do it. And these cost a lot less to build than a new studio apartment. You could build one of these for, you know, depending on the city and the local construction costs and all of that, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of $125,000, $200,000, as compared to it costing $400,000 to build a studio apartment today. As a result, you can, you know, rent these units for $750, $800 a month, right? Which is a lot more affordable than the median rent and, you know, what a lot of studio apartments are going for in these cities. And finally, we can much more effectively and cost efficiently use our subsidy dollars. So whether it's LIHTC, Housing Trust Fund, you know, local dollars that are available for building affordable housing, for the same amount of 10 million in subsidies in a city like Chicago, you could build 125 of these co-living micro apartments versus only 35 studio apartments. And so this is not going to be a solution for everybody. I want to be clear. Obviously, this is not great for families, but there are a lot of, you know, individual kind of single folks or couples that are experiencing homelessness. And this could be a great solution for them and free up those larger apartments for families. So I am over time, but I want to stop there and happy to answer any questions here. Or Francis, if you need to, you know, keep going and go straight to the next presentation, happy to do that too. Just take questions.
Thank you, Tish. I did amazing. I appreciate the research and the information. Right now, I'm gonna take some 3 minutes for Q&A for you. And then when I have time at the end also for the overall questions, but I'll give you some time to answer any questions you might have. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, so question, I know that, yeah, we've tried stuff like this before in the past, right? I know we have. I'm just wondering what the biggest pushback is against this initiative, because I mean, it just makes complete sense to me that why aren't we doing this all over the place, you know? But I know we've tried it in the past, so yeah, just what's the biggest pushback we've got against doing this kind of initiative?
Sure, Tim. I mean, we've encountered a couple types of pushback, right? One is from the kind of real estate finance and development side. Unfortunately, we have talked to a bunch of cities. There are right now not cities or states that are ready and willing to take this on as a purely public project. And so you need a mix of public and private financing. And on the private side, people think that this is a neat concept, but it hasn't been done. There are some places, for example, in Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon, that are building new co-living. But the idea of converting an existing office building into one of these kind of co-living dorm style units, that has not been done. And so, real estate investors and developers can be, somewhat risk averse to something brand new like this. And so that's one side. On the other side, kind of more, what we've heard from some advocates for, whether it's the homeless or low income housing folks, is, well, everybody deserves to have their own private bathroom, own private kitchen. We shouldn't make people live in dorms. And I can understand that. I can appreciate that. This is not going to be a solution for everybody, but I do believe, and we believe at Pew, that this should be an option, and it could work really well for a lot of folks.
Thank you so much, Trisha. I see Donald has just joined us as well. Our executive director also has his hands up. Donald, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm out in San Diego. My workshop ran over a little bit, so I apologize for being a little late today. But I just wanted to address that question because there are a couple of other things that we've run into when it comes to opposition. One is zoning. So sometimes this is going to require a community to make a zoning change. So what may have been a business district, it has to change to residential to be able to accommodate it. I would also say that the other big issue is that a lot of communities want to use these properties for high-end real estate. And so while they are open to big, expensive condos using adaptive reuse, they aren't as open to doing it for people at the bottom of the economic ladder. But we've seen some tremendous projects in communities like Los Angeles, for instance. There is actually an entire museum dedicated to the projects that have been done. This is not new. We used to have these SRO units way before we got the extreme numbers of people experiencing homelessness on the street. So it made housing affordable to a person who gets Social Security or a person who works in temporary day labor services. When those units kind of were removed from the market, that's when we saw the dramatic increases in homelessness. And if we restore those units, it'll go a long way towards reducing that. But those are some other things that we've heard. Also, sometimes it's just plain NIMBY. People don't want to see low-income people in their downtown business district. That's where a lot of these projects are located. So I just wanted to share that with people as well. So when you go into that meeting, those are things you're going to have to combat.
Yeah, thank you, Donald. I'll take 3 more statement or question on this topic, and we can always gap like at the end when I have more time to discuss more fully. So I'll only take 3 and move on to the next speaker. I'll go with Sue and Mary and then Antoine.
Sue Watlow Phillips, my NCH board member, also in the Minneapolis, St. Paul, Twin City area. Thank you for your presentation. Just to add to what Donald was saying, certainly through urban renewal, that's when we saw the destruction of most of our residential hotels or the old SROs, and they became these commercial buildings and our entertainment venues, as well as other things in our community. So I think the importance of reclaiming those and making those available for housing again is really critical. And in regards to zoning, you need to look at not only, is it commercial, but you can do what we do in the Twin Cities and across the state is we do mixed use zoning, so it can be utilized for residential. And we have a diversity of different buildings that we have reclaimed and made into housing, both in the style that was just described of more of a dormitory model, an actual SRO where there is bathrooms in and small kitchenettes in the building. I think I've mentioned on this call before that we just redid a historical school in Sandstone, which is outside the Twin Cities, about an hour and a half. Hour and 20 minutes, and made it into small apartments. And so there are ways to do that. Obviously, we've done a lot of work around this and around state legislation and local legislation and zoning changes. So just encourage you to look at the different models that are around the country as you're looking at doing these things.
Thank you, Sue. Mary?
Yeah, I'll be quick. Since Donald mentioned Los Angeles, I just want to say that, there are all different models of SROs, and we kind of have to watch the slanderous language because it's just the YIMBYs are kind of, your competition when you're taking those hotels are usually making boutique hotels that most people can't afford to visit or use. And is not, I mean, it's great for the city, I guess, in tourism, but it's not great for the residency. So I just want to say I've been in them. It's just, I've been in encampments. I've been everywhere to see people having a key and a clean place in a safe place of your own. And the dorm style, yeah, it's not ideal, but a lot of them have their own bathrooms. And I just feel that sometimes people, the LA Times and other places have really gone after this kind of housing because they want it to go to developers. So we just have to watch that it's not yes, ideally we all would like everybody to have their own space, but I there's usually less paperwork. You get in, you don't have to worry about your credit as much. There's a lot of benefit to this form of housing. And being that I've been in so many bad encampments all over the country, seeing people safely housed is a beautiful thing. That's it.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks. Anton, my last one on this topic. Go ahead.
Well,
Northeast,
hi everyone. I just want to say that here in Kansas City, I know we have utilized a plethora of infrastructures from public schools, converting them into a senior living apartments, and also some of them are been utilized been turned into youth apartments too, as well, for those who are facing homelessness too, as well. But what I was thinking is that I was looking at the presentation and everything. Has there ever been I know that what Sue has stated, but has there ever been an ideal to be able to convert public schools that have been forgotten about, or that are no longer unoperable for educational pieces, or education or whatever, or for that matter? Has that crossed the platform for that to be able to happen? And 'cause I know here in Kansas City, KCPS didn't want to at one point in time, but they did go ahead and give the okay to the city to be able to place them on the market and to be able to be sold for and be converted into housing for our community. But it's taking longer than expected because of the individuals, because of the the dollars that have to be paid have to be placed into it, and then some of the asbestos that's been, because the building has been sitting for so long or whatever. So and the dormitory is always an ideal. We use it here in Kansas City, and one of the places that
Anton, I'm gonna ask you to please close off as soon as you can. Thank you.
huh?
Could you please speed up your question?
Oh, but the question is just that is houses? I mean, is public schools being utilized for the purpose of this? That's all.
And absolutely. So, when we talk about adaptive reuse, it's not just those downtown businesses or buildings, it's also schools, it's also malls. So adaptive reuse this was one example of adaptive reuse, but there's many different forms. Hospitals, churches, schools, malls are also, all of those are places that can be transformed. And then there's also things like shipping containers and other types of structures that can be transformed into adaptive reuse housing. So absolutely, schools are part of that.
Thank you, Donald. Thanks, Anton, for your question. Thanks to Isho again. Please, we'll get back to you in the end. The people have more questions, but we're gonna move on to our next speakers because of time. Atlia, you have a quick comment?
Yes. So as far as the single occupancy like that, they look very much like a hotel. And I do know a lot of individuals who stayed in hotels that are saying that they don't want to stay in a hotel even when they're traveling because of living in the hotel. So that's something to consider as well. Individuals that are just turned off from them.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good questions and comments. And I'm going to go to Bob and Kelvin Lassiter. Introduce yourselves, but also they'll talk on, kind of give us advice and pointers on lobbying. How do we actually lobby the adaptive reuse we just learned about? So Bob, it's your time, and Kelvin.
So, hi, everybody. I'm Bob Beeson. I am the Senior Director of Government Affairs at the National Head Start Association and also a member of the NCH board. And I've been lobbying for many, many, many years. And I talked to Donald about this, and I can't get into really the specifics of your ask and what you're going to be doing, but I just wanted to share some very simple thoughts that I think will help you deliver your message more successfully. Excuse me, sorry about that. The number one thing, and listening to some of the comments that some people have made, when you go in to talk about adaptive reuse and what you are looking for, make your argument for what you are looking for. Don't make your argument against what others are saying. I love the work that I do, and I love being able to go to Capitol Hill and meet with staffers and meet with members and talk to them about what is going on in the Head Start community. But I'll tell you what, if it is somebody that has, in this case, lived experience, you are going to be able to deliver your message much more impactfully, much more strongly, and most importantly, much more authentically than anybody else can. So don't be worried. Whether you're going in on the Capitol Hill in DC or in the capital of your state, this is what these people work for you. You are their constituents. This is your opportunity to share your knowledge with them. So I would say very, very simply, make the story personal. Talk about how this would benefit you, would benefit your neighbor, would benefit your friend, or something like that. Make it as simple and as easy as possible to understand. I'm looking at I haven't had a chance to go through the toolkit that has been put together for this, but looking at just at the chat when Tushar and Francis were speaking, there's a lot of questions. So I think you narrow it down, make it as simple as it can be, so that the people on the other side of the desk, the other side of the table, whatever, understand and can readily accept and understand what you are saying. Make it real. Like I said, try to give direct personal experience if you have it, or I forget who it was that talked about being in a lot of encampments and stuff like that. Talk about that. Make it personal, make it simple, make it understandable. And the last thing is, make sure that you have an ask, whether it is to pass a certain piece of language, to sign a certain letter. And again, I haven't had a chance to see your toolkit, but when you go in there, don't just go in there and talk about the issue. You have to leave with a specific ask, so that your member of Congress, your senator, could be your city council member, or whoever, understands the specific thing that you are asking them to do. And the last thing I'll leave you with is, make sure you get the business card or the contact information for the staff person that you are meeting with, so that you can follow up with them after the meeting. to make sure that any questions that they ask in the meeting, and if you can't answer a question right off, just say, you know what, I don't know the exact answer to that, but let me find out for sure and get back to you. Don't be afraid to do that. So I know that was oversimplified, and I know that that Kelvin is going to be able to talk a lot more about the specifics of what you're going to be asking for when you are doing this. But I just wanted to share from my experience some things that I hope will make your participation in this lobby day easier for you and a lot more impactful for those that you are meeting with.
Thank you so much, Bob. I'm gonna go to Kelvin so that we cover the topic together, and then when I have questions for both Bob and Kelvin, like at the same time, if that's would be much easier. Thank you. Kelvin, go ahead.
Thank you, Francis, and great stuff, Bob. You actually talked about something I was going to say, but I'll maybe go just a little specific about the ask. All right, thanks to everyone who joined us today. I'm Kelvin Lassiter. I am the policy analyst for the National Coalition for the Homeless. I've been with the organization in various roles for going on 16 years, and I've been in this current role for 6 years. So one of the things I've learned when visiting lawmakers is you're only going to have a minimum amount of time, usually 15 to 20 minutes. If you're lucky, it will go a half hour, but that doesn't happen normally. It's not the case. So keep that in mind when you're preparing, doing your prep work. You will only have a limited amount of time because they're meeting with a lot of people, as well as meeting with people. Number two, you will probably be meeting with a staffer, as Bob kind of indicated. You probably will not be meeting with the lawmaker, and that's okay. Don't minimize the relationship with the staffer. A lot of times they may know a little more than what you think. They are very knowledgeable, incredibly knowledgeable. So don't minimize the relationship with the staffer. Number three, know the legislation they have introduced. You cannot walk in an office and don't have any knowledge of what they're working on. It will take the flow of the conversation a long way, and it will work in your favor. I have seen it when people kind of babble and not know exactly who the lawmaker is, or they don't have their notes prepared. So it will serve you well. Prepare your talking points, and Bob already stated this, but I just want to reemphasize, prepare your talking points and let them know what you're asking for. An example of what you're asking for is if, for example, you're meeting with the Congressional Caucus on Homelessness and they have accepted the meeting with you, you want to talk about the Supreme Court decision Johnson v. Grant passed, or you want to talk about the criminalization that's going on all across the country and the laws that have been introduced since Johnson v. Grant passed, and you want to talk about the potential building of prisons for the homeless, such as been proposed in the state of Utah. Now, although there may be a slim chance right now that they may be able to build it because they will need federal dollars, you can't take it for granted that it won't happen in other places. So be specific on that. Relax. It's just a conversation. No one knows what you're supposed to say but you. So relax. And you have to be confident when you walk in there because people can tell if you're not confident. Bob talked about following up, but the other piece that is as important as following up is to learn what committees that they sit on. You want to make sure that the lawmaker that you're going to meet with has a interest, not only a personal interest, but a professional interest on the committees that they sit on. If you're asking for the wages to go up and more jobs, then you want to talk with someone who deals with that in your state legislature. If you're talking federal, then you want to visit the Ways and Means Committee, which is the oldest committee in Congress. And you want to know all that. Again, the more invested that you appear to be in that lawmaker's work, the more you will get out of it in the long run. That's all I have right now, and I'll turn it back over to Francis. Looks like Donald has.
Thank you, Calvin. I'll start with Donald. I'll go with Aaron. Donald, go ahead.
Two things I wanted to point out. Thanks, Kelvin and Bob, for really, really good information. Couple of things I wanted to point out. I love Kelvin talking about don't get discouraged when you have a staffer, because that's going to happen a lot. I don't know if Adora is going to talk about this. I hope I'm not stealing her thunder, but
Yeah, she's
one of
coming
the
up
things.
next, Donald.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about that then. The other thing I want to talk about is you do have to, there are some limitations if you're a nonprofit on lobbying. And we don't lobby at NCH, we educate our elected officials. But there are some limitations, so please make sure that you look at what your limitations around it are. They're pretty broad, like it's about 25% of your total budget that you could use, but you want to make sure that you're not in violation, especially right now. I think at other times in our history, we might not have had to worry about it as much, but I do think we have to be very, very careful if you're a 501c3 right now, because there are going to be, I'm not trying to scare anybody, of course, attempts to limit what you can do around your elected officials. So just make sure you're considering that, and it's not something you can do every day. I can tell you that right now. But certainly there is a lot of room to do it, but you just have to make sure that you're careful when you're doing it. I just want to share that because I don't want to see anybody face any undue difficulty because of educating their elected officials. So, and the one thing you can't do, and I should say this, you cannot, as a 501c3, endorse an individual candidate. So please make sure that you do not do that. That you can endorse a bill or an issue, but you can endorse a candidate. So just wanted to make sure people understand those things.
Thanks, Donald. We'll take more questions for Calvin and Bob. So I'll go with Aaron. Go ahead, Aaron.
I just wanted to give some insightful data when it comes to what lawmakers may be looking for in reflection to HUD information, that they're looking to end homelessness in the scope of 10 years based on the success of how successful your treatment program, if you're a faith-based substance abuse program that is housing unsheltered homeless people. They're looking for a self-sufficiency amongst the HUD matrix. There's a self-sufficiency program that HUD runs that they're utilizing the data. And one of the main quotes that I got out of the meeting, the quarterly meeting, is what gets measured gets done. So if you're providing as much information and data to end homelessness as far as your scope, then they may pick up on that information and use it, and you may get a response. So I just wanted to provide that, some information coming straight from HUD. So thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it. Anybody else has any questions or comment for Bob and Calvin? Yes, Sue?
Just want to echo is just keep it really simple, and be you, and share your own personal story of why this is so important to you, as I think Bob was talking about and Kelvin was talking about. Have some data, but you don't have to be the expert on this. I mean, there are a number of examples around the country, some of them that I put in the chat. But talk about that, these are our buildings that we've invested in typically, and that to reuse them and provide homes for people in the long run is going to make it better for people to have a stable place, and it's going to save money. So I just encourage you just to be yourself. And they have all the staff people that can actually write the legislation. So and there's plenty of examples out there they can use as examples. I don't think that I ever encourage us to look at it as being model legislation, but examples of what other communities are doing, because each community is going to have to do it in a different way. Thanks.
Thank you, Sue. Tyler?
Thank you, Francis, and thank you to all of our presenters. I just had a quick question because I know we talked a lot about meeting with a staffer, only having about 15 to 20 minutes. Do you guys have any tips on how we can make that moment memorable for folks who are going and doing this lobbying on the 18th, how that 15 minutes or so can be impactful?
Thank you, Tyler. Bob, Calvin?
So, Calvin, I'm going to push back a little bit on what Calvin said. You might have 15 or 20 minutes with a staffer. With a member, you're going to have 5 or less, probably. Most of your meetings, a staffer is going to come in and set up the meeting and then bring in the member partway through the meeting. So what you need to do is you need to come up with your elevator pitch, your 60-second pitch on what you need. And that has got to be something that is personal and that resonates with the member. You know, if you can talk about something specifically that is happening in their district, where there's a building that you know of, maybe that has been sitting abandoned, that you've been looking at, that you think this could be a perfect opportunity for adaptive reuse, something like that that will resonate with them, that really hits the nail on the head in maybe that 60 or 90 seconds where the member comes in and you've got their undivided attention. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Bob.
And I would just say, Bob, that it also depends on the relationships that you have formed based on your experience, whether that you will have the opportunity to meet with the member.
Yep.
So I just wanted to say that as well. And to your point, you need to be prepared because you don't know if you're the member. We've had experience with a member has actually walked in unannounced when we were meeting with staff.
Yep.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you, Bob and Calvin, and great questions. I'm gonna go to Adora to kind of continue the discussion and how NCH, after you learn about the research, what is working across the country and what we're trying to do as well. You hear about how lobbying goes about, the tips you receive. Also hear from Adora and also connect about NCH while we're doing adaptive reuse and where we are going from here. So Adora, go ahead.
Thanks, Francis, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to share my screen very quickly. Okay, so we have heard immensely through this call. Can everybody see my screen switching? Okay, great. We've heard immensely through this call.
No, are you still on the first page? Oh no,
No.
second page. Okay, good. You're good then.
You're on the second page, right? On the what is
Yes.
adaptive reuse?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so what is adaptive reuse? Pretty much we are trying to reimagine what it looks like to find new purposes for old buildings. And as we've already pointed out, it's way cheaper, affordable, and these units can get up way faster than a regular zoning, a new construction can do so. And it is the best possible way that we can end homelessness quicker. And as you can see, there are some examples, as we've heard, hospitals, schools, old businesses, federal buildings. The list is endless, and so are the possibilities. So what are the goals that we as an organization and with you, our partners and advocates are looking for. So we want the states to actually invest in and remove the current barriers and converting that vacant and underused infrastructure into housing that, again, is affordable and is readily available to everyone. And so we're calling for the creation of 1 million affordable adaptive reuse units by 2032. But not only that, we want this whole framework, we want the goal to be led by those experiencing with lived experience and that are actively going through their experience, and making sure that we're there at every step of the way to make those decisions, and making sure that what we're trying to achieve doesn't fall on deaf ears, or that the demographics that we want to help, which are those low income people, those experiencing homelessness, those experiencing mental health and all types of disabilities, where they can get the housing that they need without any other barriers. So how do we get there? As I've been putting in the chat every so often is a list of resources that you can use that include our toolkit and template, which you can change and tailor to your specific states, and also utilizing the specific issues that you have in your states to tie those into that adaptive reuse bill. For instance, in our last state captains meeting in Houston, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia, and Antoine mentioned this earlier, that there are a lot of public schools that are no longer able to be used for educational purposes, and what better way to repurpose them but to use them for either single room occupancies or studio apartments, or what so have you. So that though that information is there and will be continue to be provided to you, as well as outreach, bringing your network and your partners into this movement, and informing them of what it would be like to utilize adaptive reuse as a better alternative. Of course, endorsing the campaign, the Adaptive Reuse Initiative, that link will also be posted into the chat and has been as well, and continuous lobbying. We do want everyone to understand that although, yeah, this is a state lobby day and this is a campaign that we are pushing right now, the goal doesn't end until we get to that 1 million units, right? So that includes continuous lobbying, doing those follow-ups that Bob mentioned, and making sure that your demands are getting heard and answered. That also would include joining us at NCH. There is definitely a power in numbers. So there are many ways to get involved, whether that will be a bond partner, which link is here, becoming a member, NCH member, and there are 2 choices, including the organizational member or the individual member. And if you'd like to become a state captain, well, a little bit of background information. Our state captains are pretty much our bridge to the grassroots organizing that we as an organization do. They are the liaisons that keep us informed on things that are happening on the ground in local and state communities. And in turn, we provide assistance and help and the platform to be able to push the movement further on a national scale and make sure that the issues that are going on within specific states are getting properly televised on a national scale as well. So if there is any interest, if you do have any interest in joining, please feel free to email myself or Francis, and I will put our emails in the chat after I finish talking about our tips and tricks for lobbying your best. Pretty much Donald, Bob, Kelvin, spoke a lot about some of the things that I have listed here, but I do just want to go through the list and just provide any insights that I feel may help in addition. So number one, of course, knowing your stuff, having the information, the statistics, knowing your experiences, obviously prepared in that time allotment that Bob and Kelvin spoke about, just making sure that you are providing clear and concise information as you're going through, and that you're being mindful of the time that you have. Also, bringing extra copies of information. I believe that a way to stand out to Tyler's question earlier is making sure that you're leaving extra copies, just like you're getting their information to follow up, leaving your information as well, making sure that your presentation of information is clear, concise, and easy for them to read and digest as well in a short period of time. Being confident in your words. If you're someone that is shy initially, or it takes you a little bit of time to warm up to your flow of things and your dialogue, try practicing in a mirror a few times before you go. I would not suggest just doing it cold turkey. If it's something that you're not comfortable with doing, please be confident, because the staffers and the members can sense your uncertainty, and also be confident in your uncertainty as well. If you don't know something, much like was spoken about earlier, be confident in saying that, and that you can provide that information at a later date. Number two, being solution focused, making sure not to nitpick at the issue, but connecting the issue to your demands. Bringing alternatives to the table. So if that means that you're utilizing the local hospital that's been out of practice for quite a few years, or if you're utilizing the public schools that are closing down in your area, make sure that you're emphasizing that and bringing that to the table. Emphasizing close, natural, and mutually beneficial results. So as Bob mentioned, if it's your personal experience, say it. If it's someone that is close to you, or a group of people that you've been advocating for that are in need of it, or recently you've seen it happen somewhere else, and mention it. Even talking about how this is something that would be cheaper and faster, and would also help in pushing forward their reputation. We know members love to be told how good they're doing. So just incorporate those things into your solution-based presentation. And then number three, I think this is what Donald was talking about earlier, knowing your reps. Don't go in there blindsided and not know who you're talking to or how they feel about the issue that you're currently discussing. Making sure that you're taking note of the bills that they've championed in the past, what they've endorsed or opposed throughout their career, even so much as like what their life was before becoming a rep. For instance, former Representative Cori Bush, she used to be a nurse. She experienced homelessness. Those are things that during our briefing in 2022, I brought to light and made sure to make those connecting stances with the fact that it's not just regular everyday people that experience homelessness. It's the very representatives that are championing these bills, that are, getting paid to create these bills and to do the work that we're asking them to do. So making sure that you have a good understanding of who you're talking to can take you a long way. And quite honestly, it may help in getting more than that 5 minutes from that member, or getting more or up to that 30 minutes with that staffer. So just, in the end of the day, relax, be confident, know your stuff, and know your members. Thank you.
Thank you. Donald, go ahead. Thanks, Adora.
Okay, just one more thing to add. Great presentation, all of you. One other thing is that we are asking states to do adaptive reuse, but some states already have adaptive reuse. So make sure that what you ask your elected official for pertains to your community. So there's something that's missing in their homeless delivery system. It may not be adaptive reuse. Places like Minnesota and the state of Washington and Texas and Maryland already have adaptive reuse. But they don't have enough affordable housing. They may be doing criminalization. So make sure the issue fits your community. I just wanted to say that.
Yes, thank you, Donald. Curtis?
Oh,
You have
hey,
2 minutes.
I'm Curtis Howard with the San Diego Regional Task Force for the Homeless in San Diego as a contractor. I'm formerly a lead organizer for All of Us or None San Diego chapter. I heard someone mention earlier that you don't have to have all of the information, to answer every question about this in order to represent it. I am formerly someone who did stay in an SRO, actually just before the pandemic, after being homeless and staying with several people on and off and being in fear of being kicked out and let go from those residences and bouncing around so much. I decided to move out of their houses and move into an SRO where I would have more certainty in my being able to stay there, not knowing whether I was going to wake up in the morning and someone was going to tell me to leave. I felt like moving into the SRO was more of a security thing for me. Even though it had less amenities, I still didn't fear being put out as much when I did get the SRO. However, I noticed that it attracted a lot of other people like on Social Security who couldn't afford to get into other places, and this brought on a lot of different type of clientele. And so what my question is that who will manage the reuse places? Will there be a supportive housing element for the people who stay there? And will there be like caseworkers or supportive housing resources? And how long will people be there? Will there be a time period for them to transition into other housing or what?
Thank you, Curtis. We are out of time right now, but for those who have to go, we understand. But if anybody can answer, Donald, go
I'm
ahead.
happy to answer that. It's specific to your community. Everything you mentioned is a form of an SRO. There's SROs that are for permanent supportive housing. There's SROs that are individual SROs that people think old YMCA model, right? There was no case management there was no supportive services. People just used it to be able to afford their housing. So that's going to be specific to a community. So some continuums will provide the supportive services and it'll look more like permanent supportive housing. Other places, it'll look more like a transitional unit. So that is going to be specific. If we're talking best practices, it would be more the supportive service model that does have some case management, some job development, some ability for people to move on site, but that's going to be dependent upon community desire and resources. So certainly something to think about. We're not as much proposing that people have any specific type of housing. We're saying we need you to develop the housing in general, and then we can figure out what to do and what kind of amenities and what kind of supportive services to put in it. The first step is to get a state to say, yes, I'm going to do this, and then we can help them move in the direction towards the best possible model.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Donald.
Thanks, Donald.
And thanks, Curtis. Thanks, everybody, to the speaker, Bob, Calvin, Donald, Adora. Thank you so much for your presentations. Very informative. For those who still have questions, feel free to reach out to any of the speakers. They're more happy to provide you more information. Reach out to Adora and I. We can give you more information as well, like the tools we have here. But in the chat, you have all the information available. Thank you so much for organizing with us. And this is a continuous journey. So have a blessed day. Thanks, everybody. And I'll see you on Friday on Band Partners Call.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. Peace.
Coventry specifically.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Hey guys, it's Kenya. Just wondering if I can get the copy of the recording so I can add it to the landing page, please.
Yes, once whenever the call ends, it takes a minute before it took it like not show up to my things and I forward to you, Kenya.
All right, thanks. Congratulations, guys. You did great.
Thank you. Great job, Adora. Well done. Appreciate your work.
Thank you. Not a
All
problem.
right, thanks everybody. I'll be ending the call if there's no other comments for now, but I'll see you on Friday. Bye-bye.